Hey YouTube, I want to talk today about disclosure. And so disclosure is basically telling somebody that you're trans, but you're doing this kind of after you've transitioned or after you're sort of towards the tail end of your transition. So basically you are now presenting as your target gender rather than getting ready to transition. And so disclosure and coming out are basically the same thing. So to the extent you want to go into a lot of details about being trans, like you can do that during coming out or during disclosure later. And that's really up to you as to who do you tell, when do you tell them, how do you have this conversation with them, right? And that's all driven by the individual, whether or not you even want to have that conversation at all. But what you will see is a lot of people on the internet saying that, oh no, you have to disclose, you have to tell a guy that you're trans if you're sleeping with him or you're going out on dates with him, whatever, because otherwise you're deceiving him, you're tricking him, and blah, 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 and fuck that bullshit. Seriously, like, that is no good. That's not useful for trans people, and that's not useful for men or anybody else to think like that. And so, if you've been following the media lately, you might have noticed that on, I think it's Jezebel or whatever, like the feminist kind of leaning blog is out there, where somebody wrote this fantastic article about how female purity is this kind of bullshit patriarchy kind of thing, which basically is used to control women. And if you look at politics and how everything works in the world, basically, that's how the world is still run, where it's all about making sure the man gets what he wants, and then whatever happens, happens for everybody else. And that's, no. Like, guess what? If you're a guy and you're worried that you might be sleeping with a trans person, guess what? You have this thing called a mouth. You can use it to ask these things called questions if it's really that important to you. And then people will say, oh, but, like, no, I'm not going to ask every girl I meet whether or not she's trans. Like, that would be rude. That would be insulting. Because the implication is that being trans is being less than another human being. And fuck that bullshit. Again, no. If I am attractive enough to where you want to sleep with me, you want to take me out to dinner, then guess what? I'm that attractive regardless of whether or not I have a penis. So that is really your thing, and I get it. Like, it's totally okay. Not every guy wants to sleep with a woman who has a penis or who has had a penis. And that's fine, whatever, I don't care. But if it's that important to you, then ask the question. And so, obviously, this works way better for post-op people than for pre-op or non-op. Because there is that element of safety where if I don't tell a guy and then we're about to have sex in my bed, he pulls down my pants, finds out, he could potentially react very negatively, very violently, and that would be putting myself in a dangerous position to not disclose to him maybe beforehand, depending on how well I already knew him. But the other flip side is that, guess what? Most guys I've gone out on dates with here in Dallas suck. They're not worth continuing to date, which means that they're not necessarily worth disclosing to in the first place. Because if we have no chemistry, then we have no chemistry. There's no reason for me to say on the first date or before we even go out on a date, by the way, I'm trans. Like, no. And if the guy's like, oh, well, you just wasted my time by going out on this date with me, then I would question, why are you going out on dates in the first place? Is it because I give you sex in exchange for dinner? Again, no, this goes back to all that other feminist writing on this whole concept of women owing men something. No, like, women don't owe men anything. Trans people don't owe cis people anything. Like, the only person you owe anything to is yourself. And so, you disclose when you want to, when you feel safe, when you feel like it makes the most sense. And you can say as little as, I used to be a boy, but I got better. Or you can say as much as sharing your entire life story over the rest of your life. It doesn't matter. what you want to do, so long as you are doing what you want. And that is all there is to disclosure.